Long. Edward R. Long, PhD.
Edward R. Long, and not to make a big issue out of what, since I am talking about education.
Yes, that's a PhD, yes, sir.
Gentlemen, I thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you. I thank you for the opportunity of opening up the budget discussion. Now, you probably opened up a lot of discussion, and you'll probably call it a bucket of worms at some point. But you're doing well, and I hope you do this every year. And actually start it a little earlier sometime. We'll keep in touch. We'll try to do that. 1 year ago, I sat in this chamber and listened to a large number of school children tell the Board of Supervisors how overly important it was in school to have sports. Some of those same children said to you that without sports, there was no purpose in going to school. I heard education, and I heard classes mentioned once in that entire evening of discussion. And here's where it comes in with the PhD in physics. I do truly appreciate a good education. I do truly appreciate what it takes to get that education. I do truly appreciate what is required in teachers, professors, and everything that goes with it. But I looked in the back at the same time these children were talking to you about why sports was probably one of the most important things too in the school. And what really bothered me greatly was I saw teachers and I saw parents back there clapping for what those children were saying. And so basically they were promoting this value system amongst their children. And frankly, I felt very frustrated that teachers and parents would come in here en masse and stand in the background and be happy that their children put sports first in an educational system. After that Board of Supervisors meeting, I put together a small package that showed about a $700,000 savings per annual could be made and yet provide a stronger educational structure in this county in science and math. I took it to my school board member, and talked at length. Didn't get very far, but he was supposed to come back with me with something, and that was about 9 months ago. Haven't heard from him. Didn't expect to hear from him, frankly. I also talked to one other member of the school board, and I didn't hear from them either. Since 1992, the number of children in the Virginia school system has increased 22%. At the same time, the number of teachers has increased 11%. And at the same time, the administrative personnel has increased 100%. Go figure. In Augusta County, we've had a continuous parade of construction of schools, and much of that has been objected to by taxpayers, but to no avail. Has continued. And based on the total sum of money which this school spends, which this past year was around $116 million on schools with state, federal, and local funding. I'm sorry, we put in over $10,000 per annum for every student on the average in Augusta County. And I have just gone through a large study across the state for this lieutenant governor preliminary doing the Republican side, looking at what the average costs or what the average money is put in other counties up in even the northern part of the county. And I assure you, Augusta County is doing its fair share in well-funding its students. So I don't know where the lady came up with all her data. I do know about 3 years ago I looked at what the educational system out of Virginia produced, and it was somewhat different. So my feeling is the following. If you can't educate a child at $10,000 a year with all the funding that comes in to support the school system, and you can't give them a proper education, you have a problem, but it isn't funding. It's somewhere else. It's a more deep problem than having to do with money. So I'm asking you, the Board of Supervisors, to help the school board find an understanding for proving education at the level of funding they have. It's possible. I'm asking you also, though, to go to the state governments and help them to understand that education can't exist if regulation is built upon regulation, and with all sorts of mandates put on you. We have a voice up from you, from us to you, but you are our most local representatives. So, gentlemen, you have a responsibility to talk to these guys down in the General Assembly. I've watched 2,235 bills in this past 45-day session of the General Assembly. A great deal of it was pure nonsense. A great deal of it was regulations. You need to go back up and say, folks, get these guys in who are district delegates or delegates and senators in this area. Sit down and talk about this, what's happening. Get some perspective on funding, regulations, and standards of learning, which I assure you are not very good standards. And finally, gentlemen, I'll ask you, represent the people within this county. That's what you were elected to do, and that means you've got to take some very hard looks at things. And as the first gentleman said here, who spoke, money's tight. Take a look at what the federal government wants to push down in taxes. Take a look at the increase that the state wants to make from 5 to 5.8% on sales tax, and then ask yourself, can the local government say it wants to increase taxes also? I implore it, gentlemen. Take a good hard look at it. Thank you.
The next up is Dana Mason.
Dana Mason, I'm from Springview Drive in Stanton, Virginia, and I am a product of the public school system, the ungodly, and I mean that literally, public school system. I have had to spend the dawning of my golden years trying to unlearn all I learned in public school, or I didn't learn in public school. I think that the thing that strikes me most is when I see that big chunk of pie that the school system takes out of the budget every year. And I have to ask, based on the statistics that the woman presented up here, poor quality. Quality is the operative term here. And I think that that is the sacred cash cow that, quite frankly, I'd like a refund. Instead of 21% proposal tax increase, I'd like a 21% decrease. Thank you.
This is Dave Mason.
I live in the same house my wife lives in. I'm going through that again. I see you have an interesting time here. I'm enjoying the comments much. My comments are somewhat adjunct to Dr. Long's comments, actually. And the reality that I'm looking at is much different than the reality I saw up on the screen. The reality on the screen seems to be the same reality that we've had for the last 60 to 100 years of the progressive theory of education. And it doesn't work any better today than it did 10, 20, or 30 years ago. So I don't think more money is the answer. If this group support our schools or whoever they are, if they had a serious non-progressive concern for our children, this is what I think that they might ask for. They might ask that the Virginia Department of Education be scrapped. The department may have effectively pushed the progressive agenda, but it has never served our children well. These folks might demand a severing of the Commonwealth from all Washington influence over education in Virginia. Washington has been nothing but a disaster to the educating of our children. This should be a self-evident truth by now. I believe that all control over our education, including curriculum, should be returned to parents in control of local school boards. government, after all, is the people's property, and educating their children is their unalienable right. Now, if homeschoolers can educate their children for a third or much less than the $1,800 we're spending a year in Augusta County, that's per child, without standing results, then money must not be the problem. Government must be the problem. And how have homeschoolers achieved their incredible success in the field of education? They did it by ridding themselves of Department of Educations, by repudiating the tyranny of government control over themselves and their children, and by taking control of curriculum. And so, until all decision over public education is placed in the hands of parents and local school boards, and until ideological indoctrination is removed from curriculum, until all the fat is cut out of education bureaucracies, until such time come to pass, my vote is for no further taxes. I think you, as the magistrate, and as people sworn to uphold the constitutions and all that, that we need to have you go to Richmond and start working on such things. What we're doing now is madness, and it doesn't work. And I don't see any chance that throwing more money is going to do any good either. Thank you.